Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Language Arts Gallery. Today, we're going to continue talking about narrative writing, and we're going to talk about using figurative language in our narratives. We're going to talk specifically about similes, metaphor, and personification. And I'm also going to touch on hyperbole. So let's go ahead and let's get started. Okay, so let's talk about figurative language. Now, remember, if you're a teacher and you're interested in using these resources in your classroom, you can check the links in the video description, and that's got links to all my writing materials, my academic and creative writing materials. If you are one of my students from Myanmar and you're interested in receiving these materials, please do not purchase them. Please just send me a message in Signal and I will send you the materials free of charge. So let's go ahead and let's start by talking about similes and metaphors. When we talk about similes and metaphors, we're comparing two unlike things. And when we use a simile, we're using the words like or as to compare those two things. Her hands were as cold as ice, or he was shaking like a leaf. And a metaphor is when I compare two unlike things, but I don't use like or as. I say that something is something else. Love is a rose or life is a journey. Those are both examples of metaphors. So when we're writing narratives, either when we're writing memoirs or personal narratives or fictional narratives, using figurative language like similes and metaphors helps for our audience to imagine what we're talking about. Remember when we talked about elongating moments in our last video, drawing out the scene in narrative writing? Similes and metaphors help us to do that because they help our audience to picture what's actually going on. So let's get some practice here. I want you to look at these 6 sentences and I want you to tell me if it's a simile or a metaphor. So you can pause the video and complete this on your own, and I'll work through this now. He swims like a fish is a simile. I see the word like. The school bus is a yellow whale. That's a metaphor. It says it is a yellow whale. He eats like a pig is a simile. She's a walking encyclopedia. That's a metaphor. He's as tall as a giraffe is a simile, and time is money is a metaphor. So some of my favorite metaphors there. She's a walking encyclopedia and time is money. So now I want to talk about one of my favorite elements of figurative language, and that's personification. When we look at the word personification, we see the word person inside that word. Personification is when we give human qualities to things that aren't human. So the tree branches tugged at her hair is an example of personification. To tug is to pull gently. Tree branches cannot pull something. Only people can pull things. So here the author is giving those tree branches human qualities. So let's take a look at these 3 sentences here, and I want you to tell me which one is not an example of personification and why. The sun smiled warmly on the fields. It was as hot as an oven outside. The rain played a song on the roof. The second one is not an example of personification. In the first sentence, the sun is smiling. I know that people smile, the sun can't smile. And the rain played a song on the roof. Only people can play songs. The rain can't play a song. The second sentence is a simile. The author is comparing the weather outside to an oven. So before we wrap up, I want to talk briefly about one of my other favorite elements of figurative language, and that's hyperbole. Hyperbole is when authors use exaggerated statements. And we use this to get our audience to appreciate whatever it is we're trying to describe. So you might say, I have a ton of homework. It's going to take me forever. Of course, you really don't have a ton of homework. You wouldn't be able to pick up your books if it weighed a ton. And it's not going to take you forever. It might take you a really long time. It might take you a few hours, but it's not going to take you forever. That's an example of hyperbole. It's an exaggeration. So authors use this to describe a setting, to describe a particular scene or a moment for their audience. They might say, when I arrived at the concert, the line outside was a mile long. So of course the line is not really a mile long, but the author's using an exaggerated statement. So thank you so much. Please, if you haven't already subscribed, please click like, subscribe, and comment on the video. And join me in our next video when we're going to begin talking about poetry.